Finally, it's done. I did review the Moto X, the Moto G and the Moto E second generation, and now it's time for the big comparison. I won't this time for real go into all the details because that's what each review is there for, but I will give you the biggest differences, and I want to start off with the design and build quality. I think the most obvious thing is the size here. The E is by far the smallest one, but the thickest one. If we compare them just real quick, you will see it is the thickest one. But therefore it's still the best in hand one because it is just so small. If you compare the X to the G, they are quite similar actually, a little bit different in terms of length and in thickness. In just nominal thickness, it's just I think 0.5 millimeters, but since the X is way thinner on the sides than this one is, it feels definitely thicker, the G compared to the X. The X feels better in terms of thinness, but otherwise they feel quite nice both because they are still quite narrow. And I really wouldn't choose a real winner here. They feel both quite nice in hand. I would almost give it to the G here. But the overall winner for me, just because it is so small and compact, is this one. And almost in terms of build quality, because it has this nice matte plastic. And both other ones here have this kind of odd soft touch plastic. But on the X you have different backings if you want to. You can choose it yourself. So that's not really an option. In terms of the buttons, as you can see here, for me, of course, since you can see it, this button positioning on the E is the best one because it's, I think, the most natural size. And even the difference, the small difference compared to the G and the X, which is just a little bit, feels better on the G. It just felt more right here, but still good on all of them. So build quality on all of them three is very well, because all three are solid, especially here with the metal frame. They are all very ergonomically designed because they have this nice edge here, so they are all done great. And especially for the price range, this one for $350, about that, of course it always varies from country to country, is done pretty much perfectly. It is really well. This one feels nice. I don't like the backing so much, but you can replace those. But the design is great, and this one just feels the best for me because of the hard plastic and the best grip. So let's get to the display now, and I really don't want to show off too much, just the main differences here, because these are quite obvious. If we check this right now in person, the differences are way more obvious as they are maybe here on this video, and of course even the angle isn't the best one. But what is my winner here in terms of the display? Of course you would expect always the X to be the best one, but in terms of calibration, and on the video it doesn't look maybe like this, but it's definitely the winner. This is the G for me. It has the perfect white balance, really nice. It is still sharp. The X and the E are a tad too yellow for me, and actually on this video again, the yellow one looks reddish, so you notice the X still, after all, is more yellow than the E. And I said on my review, I think the E is even more yellow, which it seems like on the video, I mean in real life, but that's maybe because the brightness. We have AMOLED here, and I did need more brightness here. So as you can see here, obviously the X is the most yellow one. If we check the colors real quick, because the blacks are solid on all, but of course the X has the best ones. The colors, for sure, they pop the most. Of course, this is, as you can see here, don't get a bit confused because of the camera angle, because here you can see the X pops definitely more, but it is also oversaturated. Same for on the E. Once you have the right angle, because it was like this, then it looks mute. But here, as you can see here, it is quite similar actually to the G, which has the best calibration even in terms of colors. I like the pop on the X, but I prefer the accuracy and still vivid colors of the X. So in terms of calibration, my winner would be this, and this is just great because of the amazing black and because of the resolution. Otherwise, for the price, this one offers actually the best quality in terms of quality. Now let's check the sound, and here differences are quite obvious. Give me a sec. It's a little bit hard to juggle with 3 devices at once, but okay. Let's start off with the X. The camera actually is just above here, so it's in the middle, so it should make a big difference. Okay, let's see what the G has to offer here. And now, what has the E to offer? So, the X is the clear winner for me, even though it doesn't have stereo front facing like the G has, but it is by far the loudest and it has this nice clear sound, which the E has as well. For me, the issue on the G is it has stereo, which is the only one that has stereo, but the sound is a little bit muffled and the maximum loudness also isn't really much more than on the E. So I would even give the second place to the E because it has the clear sound. I'm not the biggest sound of this slightly muffled sound. There are audio settings where you can adjust the equalizer and you can get that matched, but I try to always use the default settings, and on these 3 here, this is the winner because of the lightest and clear sound, and this is still quite loud and offers a nice clear sound, and this one is just slightly muffled. Now, performance real quick because we don't want to make this too long. As you can see here, battery smooth, but as you already could see, it is lagging a bit because we only have 5.0 and not yet the 5.1 where the performance got fixed. So it is smooth, but it does have a few hiccups here and there. But the overall experience still is the best one because I can live with a few hiccups if it's super smooth and quite responsive. So everything of this is here, as you can see. It also has 2 GB of RAM, which makes the biggest difference. 2 GB of RAM will make sure that you get a nice experience because you don't have to reload too many stuff. As you can see here, it is definitely the most snappiest device, mostly because of the 1 GB, of course also of the higher frequency or better CPU as well. Here, as you can see here, also very smooth, and like I said in my review, it feels a bit smoother and more consistent than the E, for example. Also quite lag free, so definitely a great experience here as well. It is kind of snappy all the time, not really any issues. So it is a great performance. As you can maybe see on the video, the difference to the X isn't that bad, mostly because it already has the improved performance that the X doesn't have yet, but performance also great as well. On the E, I think the reason why it isn't maybe that snappy or that consistent as the G is because maybe they used some slower RAM or something like that. Can't really say for sure, but it is performing well, quite similar to the G, but just not right on that level. It just seems a little bit slower in loading times and so on. I would blame the RAM and maybe the storage for a few things like that, or maybe lesser optimization, but usually due to the S410 here and only the 400 on the G, you would expect actually this one to perform better because it has the lower resolution, and in games it actually even feels slightly smoother, but that's it for that. Next thing would be the battery life, and I want to make this real quick. They charge up all pretty much very well, and you can check those times in the reviews, but the Moto X offers about 3.5 hours of screen on time over 1 day at best. The G offers at least 4.5, maybe even 5 hours, and the Moto E, which is the winner here, offers at least 5.5, and maybe even 6 hours over a whole day. So the lower you get on the Moto line, the battery actually gets better, because this one has also the biggest battery with 2390, where this one has, I think, 23, and this one only 2070. If the battery of these two would have been the same, the battery life of the G would be even better. It's still a good battery. In terms of software, if we check it, because I won't go into details because it is pretty much all the same software, but what we get on the X, what we don't get on all, here we have Moto, we have assist, actions, voice and display. And if you check the Moto G, for some reason all of this is non-existent. Even though I said it on the review, but as you can see here, it is not there. I don't have anything of that. If we go down in the line again to the Moto E, that stuff for some reason is there already. We have assist, actions and display, only missing voice. So if you want to get closer to the software experience of the X but pay less, then you can get it on the E, not on the G. I guess maybe with a customer or so you can get this as well. So right off the box you don't have it, but this doesn't have to mean a lot. Camera experience. Okay, here of course, the more you pay, the better it gets. It is good on the X, not phenomenal. It's still just the Motorola cam. They just don't offer the best with it. But the camera is good. But if you want to know more about it, check the reviews. It did a fine job, but definitely nothing really impressive, nothing to brag about, but good enough for social media, good enough to show it on screen to your friends and so on. No problems here at all. And the Moto G camera actually isn't that far off. It was good, of course, a little bit less sharp, a little bit less details, so just a little bit less of all of this. And the Moto E camera is quite a noticeable still level behind. Not as sharp, not as detailed. Video performance was way worse, low-light experience was way worse, so this pretty much sums it up. And I don't think I have to make a recap here, but just real quick. Design and build quality, all are doing a great job for the price, and it's really the design that makes the Moto line really that specific, because they are ergonomically built really well, and I can't say it often enough. I like this design way more than I ever thought it would be, because it just feels so great in the hand. Especially the X feels very compact in the size for a 5.2 inch and very sturdy. The G almost is the least qualitative in my opinion, because this one just has the hard plastic back that I prefer so much. If there's a hard plastic back for the G available, then I would definitely go for that one. Displays. Yes, in overall I would give the win to the X, mostly because of the higher resolution, and the AMOLED just is quite a satisfying mainstream display. The best calibrated one is on the G, and yes, the low-res one on the E just isn't my cup of tea. Sound, the winner, definitely the Moto X. Very loud, very clear, and even though it's not stereo, it provides a good enough stereo effect. The Moto G, just a little bit too muffled and not really super loud, but loud enough, definitely it's okay. But the E, I would even give it a win, because it is the clearer one and pretty much the same volume. Performance, of course, the X wins, not maybe right now, because it is the laggiest experience from them all right now, but with 5.1, from what I heard, it is flawless again, smooth. The G and the E perform pretty much on the same level. I would just say this one has, I think, the slightly snappier responsiveness and so on. It just reacts a little bit further, but both are very smooth. Both do a great job, especially for this price. I didn't expect we would get ones to that level, where we aren't that far off from the flagships. And I would even say that just for the experience itself, the G is so close to the X that if it would have had 2 GB of RAM, the X would almost be annihilated. What else is there to say? Battery life, the best one on the E, mostly because I guess to the lower screen res and the bigger battery than the G. And the X is quite disappointing in terms of battery, because 3.5 hours is hard to manage. If you aren't a heavy user but you want to have the best experience, then the X is good enough. But you shouldn't be too far off from a charger. Software pretty much the same, with the X having a few less features for no reason that I know of. I think I've heard somewhere why it doesn't have, but it doesn't matter. Camera, the X has the best camera, but just between those three. From all the flagship, I think it is pretty much the weakest camera after all, but still good enough. The G, for the money you pay, you get a great camera, but just for the money you pay. If you consider it, there are, yeah, but in this price range, don't think there are so much better ones. The only thing that I see, maybe a few Lumias could be killing this in terms of battery, in camera performance, but yeah, that's up for anyone to see. Yeah, and the E, I think in this price range you get quite a similar camera experience on all the ones. So this was my comparison. I hope it was condensed enough. It did take, after all, over 15 minutes, but for 3 devices it just takes a little bit more time. I think it was helpful enough. Let me know what you think, and I have to say my clear winner, just in terms of value, for sure the G, because it is so close to the X, but quite a bit off of the E, because these two are quite similarly priced, but you get still so much more on the G. The X, if you want a flagship, offers great values, but is not the best in any one. The E, very solid in all, doesn't really make any issues, any flaws. It does perform very well in this price range. Only thing is the screen and the camera. But this one is the golden middle, not just in terms of price, but as a whole. Okay, until next time, bye.